Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Ingraffea. I am a professor of civil and environmental engineering at Cornell. This happens to be the civil and environmental engineering building at Cornell, so welcome to my house. It's my pleasure and privilege to be the moderator for tonight's event on prospects for shale gas in New York. Before we get started, obviously we have a lot of thank yous. First of all, thank you for coming here, including all those who already went to Albany and back today. Fantastic. And I want to thank all the people who organized this event who do not want their names mentioned, and they do not want to take a bow, but you already know who they are. I'm looking at them. So thank you very much for all the wonderful actions and hard work that went into putting this event together. And given the importance of the information you're going to learn tonight, it was appropriate that we have a number of co-sponsors for the event. You can see them on the list, but I'm going to read them to you because they all deserve to be read out. The Tompkins County Council of Governments, Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County, the Tompkins County League of Women Voters, the Cornell Sustainability Hub, Sustainability at Ithaca College, Ithaca First Presbyterian Committee on Justice, and the Peace and Integrity of Creation, and Frack Tracker Alliance. So let's give a hand to all those for co-sponsoring. Let me tell you how this is going to happen tonight. I'm going to tell you what this event is and tell you what the event isn't by way of introducing you to the four guest speakers. First up is James Chip Northrup, and the title of his presentation, this is Chip. And the topic of his talk is the geographic extent of shale gas productivity in New York. That'll give you the first hint about what tonight is about. And let me tell you a little bit about Chip. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Southern Methodist University and an MBA from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Finance. He is an oil and gas investor and former planning manager at Atlantic Richfield. Chip has been an entrepreneur and private investor in solar energy companies, in propane fuel systems, in oil and gas exploration and production, in onshore and offshore oil rigs, in real estate development and tech startup for companies for over 30 years. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what he's going to be doing, but let me continue with the introductions. Chip will hand off to Brian Brock. Brian is our geologist for this evening. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in geology from St. Lawrence, has done graduate study at Carleton and Caltech. His expertise is in hard rock geology, field work in igneous and high-grade metamorphic petrology of Precambrian era. Brock has also worked on both terrestrial and lunar rocks and has mapped for both the New York State Geological Survey in the Adirondacks and the U.S. Geological Survey out west. And Brian will be talking about the geological variables in shale gas productivity. That's hint number 2. The third talk will be given by Jerry Acton. And Jerry will be forecasting Marcellus productivity in New York. So a little bit about Jerry. Jerry has a Bachelor of Science degree in aeronautical engineering, as do I. His is from the U.S. Naval Academy. Oh, life leads us on very strange places. Okay. He did an MS in mechanical engineering at North Carolina State University. He was first hired by IBM as a systems engineer and anti-submarine warfare expert. He worked for 31 years as a lead systems engineer and systems architect for IBM and later for Lockheed Martin in Owego, New York. He was responsible for the architecture, the requirements, the design, and operational performance on a wide variety of large, complex military, government, and commercial systems. Last of the four speakers is Lou Allstadt. And so Lou's talk is New York shale gas potential. So by now you got all the clues. I'll give you a little bit more about how to connect those dots in a minute. But first, a little bit about Lou. Lou has a BS with honors from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy and an MBA from the Columbia University Graduate School of Business. He has been the Executive Vice President of Mobil Oil Corporation and Operations Officer for Exploration and Production in the United States, Canada, and Latin America. In that role, he had oversight of all of Mobil's oil and gas drilling, both onshore and offshore, in the Western Hemisphere. So, why do we have these four gentlemen lined up in that order? And how are they going to inform you about prospects for shale gas in New York? And why is this such an important question? I'm not going to steal any of their thunder, but just point out that in any resource play, whether it's gold, coal, oil, natural gas, titanium, or whatever, in every resource play, you can't possibly know what's there until you find out what's there. So all plays begin with great expectations over large areas, and eventually over time, those expectations meet reality. So tonight, you're going to get a dose, as best these men can do, a dose of reality. Given that we now have 7 or 8 years of production in the Marcellus in Pennsylvania, what can we learn from Pennsylvania that can be extrapolated in space and in time into New York? So to answer that question, Chip is first going to provide a summary of the limitations to the geographical extent of shale gas productivity in New York, and he's going to focus on the economics and regulatory constraints of that extent. That'll give you an idea of what areas we should be looking at, but that's surface view. There's only one rule in fossil fuel production and exploration, and that rule is geology rules. So you can't really understand what's down there and what's likely to come up anywhere at any time without understanding the geology everywhere. And so it's natural that our next speaker will be a geologist, and Brian is going to talk about the key geological variables that drive productivity or inhibit productivity. That necessarily leads to our next speaker, who's then going to say, well, given what the constraints are that Skip is going to talk about, and given the important geological variables that Brian's going to talk about, can we produce a model, a simulator, a forecaster that predicts, based on the experience just south of us in Pennsylvania, what is likely, not definitely, but likely to occur in New York State. So Jerry is going to talk about how he spent many months in many, many calculations, reducing the data from over 1,500 shale gas wells in northeastern Pennsylvania and another 1,200 shale gas wells in southwestern Pennsylvania to try to bring you what you came here to hear, which is what are the prospects for shale gas development in New York. Finally, we're going to wrap it all up, and Lou is going to give you the industry view. You heard that he has extensive experience, high-level extensive experience with one of the major producers. And he's going to give us the industrial view and critique what you're going to hear from the previous three speakers, especially Jerry's modeling, and give his opinion about its validity or invalidity in predicting what might be happening in New York State. So that's the lineup, that's the reason, that's why we have these four necessary components, and that's why they're in the order that they are. So I'm going to ask my usual question. Everybody with me? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, let's start.